we will covering some topics, and some topics will be left for you to study. And in case you find anything difficult in understanding this the webinar, or after this webinar you did some topics or some content, you can surely reach me out on my email address. I will be sharing that at the end of the slide, right? I think the share is gone. No? Is this visible again, Prashant?
Okay, sir, visible, but
fine.
Your slides are visible, sir.
Fine. So first we will see that details about the books or the content that I have used. The first thing is Natural Language Processing in Action. This is a book, a very good book. It helps you understand, analyze, and generate text using Python language. And second book that I have used was Natural Language Processing with Python. It's an NLTK based book. That is a toolkit based book. It's online, and you can go and search this book and you can start learning how we will do natural language processing using the technology called Python, right? The coding platform that I have used in my slides for my work is Python language, and the toolkit is Natural Language Processing, the NLTK toolkit, and the IDE that was used is VS Code, right? So you can choose any other IDE as well, or you can choose any normal IDE to work with Python, right? So now let us see what is an NLP. The NLP, Natural Language Processing, usually shortened as NLP, is a branch of AI that deals with the interaction between computers and humans using natural language. Okay, we are having some structured languages, some machine generated languages, right? But reading these languages from machines is not much of difficulty. These languages can be read by machines easily and interpreted also very easily. But the problem here is machines are different from humans. We humans are very good at learning and understanding natural languages. The problem here comes that when we want that machine to learn how to interpret the natural language, right? Not the machine generated languages. The ultimate objective of NLP is to read first, then decipher, understand, and make sense of human language in a manner that is valuable. That means that what we want from an NLP task is to first to read that particular text or particular audio file, natural language, and then we want it to decipher. Decipher means we want to convert that into from is unknown structure to a known structure. And then once we have converted into a known structure, we will try to understand what is there in that content. And then we will make some sense out of that human language. So this is the main ultimate goal of NLP. So NLP is a rapidly developing field with broad applicability throughout the hard sciences, social sciences, and humanities. The ability to harness, employ, and analyze linguistic and textual data effectively is a highly desirable skill for academic work in government and throughout the private sector. Today, if you can see, if you can search, the technology that is growing very fast is NLP. Now everyone wants to understand every other language, or what does particular person want to say, or what is the document want to say to us. That's why this is not a core computer science branch. If you are thinking that I can learn machine learning or I can learn deep learning and I can deploy an NLP task, that is not complete. That means you need to understand other domains as well, like sciences, social sciences, humanities, linguistic. These are some of the branches that you will be interacting with once you are developing an NLP based system. A natural language processing system is often referred to as pipeline because it usually involves several stages of processing, where natural language flows in one end and process output flow from other end. So we are having input, process, and output. We generally in software engineering, we call it IPO model, in which we say we are having some nodes which act as input nodes, some nodes which are there for processing of that particular information, transforming it from a raw data to a processed data, and finally some nodes which are there for displaying or storing that processed data, these output nodes. Now, the applications of NLP, the core applications of NLP in today's time is, the first is sentiment analysis. That means classification of emotion behind text. Example, movies reviews are. Prashant, is that screen again unshared? So sorry for inconvenience. Can we use the same features as humans, like presence of describing words such as adjectives such as great or terrible, etc.? So in describing sentiments, we use many words, right? If I say this is a good movie, the word good says, okay, yeah, this is a good movie. We can go and watch it again. We can say it's a very good movie. The term very, when used with good, increases the like level of goodness, that the level of sentiment in that particular statement. So we can analyze this using NLP task. We can have multiple human languages and multiple like classification of emotions using this NLP task. The second application of NLP is information extraction. That means you want to extract structured data from certain text, relationship between country, names of presidents, acquisition relation between buyers and sellers. There are some of the examples. So it is used for extraction of some type of information. And the last is information retrieval. It is similar, it is like same thing as search. Okay. It is the concept of retrieving the correct document given a query, like Google. So if we try to write something in Google search page, we generally don't you think of writing in a more structured way, right? We can type any number of words and we want that system to give us that particular information back. Okay. So might not be possible that we write in a very grammatically correct sentence, right? So in that case also, what we want is this NLP behind the scene should understand what we want and should give us the result to a search engine. We can find out what the user wants and display it to the user. So this is one of the core application of NLP. So there are three applications we studied. One is called sentiment analysis, information extraction, and information retrieval. They are the basic three type of application that NLP uses. You can have many more type of applications which are subset of these three. Now, machine learning is an area of artificial intelligence, right? That is a set of statistical techniques of problem solving, right? Machine learning, AI is a very broad type of technology. Inside AI, we used to implement many things which with the help of machine learning algorithms, right? AI was generally developed to make things work on behalf of humans. The things which are very common for humans, we transfer this machine, the technology, this work to a machine. The machine will do the same thing with the set of rules that the human do. If we can dictate the machine step 1, step 2, step 3, step n, you will do this. So the machine will work according to that particular set of rules. Then we said we have transferred an AI, artificial intelligence. We have transferred our intelligence into the machine, right? Now what we want to go a step further, and we want that machine to learn from his or that particular steps, whether he goes that the thing is wrong or right. The machine should judge and machine should respond. In that all these scenarios, you will go into another type of AI. This is called machine learning. Machine learning by itself is a set of algorithms that is used to do better NLP, better vision, better robotics. It is not an AI field in itself, but a way to solve real AI problems, right? Today, ML is machine learning is used in self-driving cars, fraud detection, price prediction, and even NLP, right? Now, the another branch of this AI, which is a subset of machine learning, is called deep learning. Deep learning itself include RNN and CNN and other type of neural networks. It is a machine learning approach. Deep learning can be used for NLP tasks as well. However, it is important to note that deep learning is a broad term used for a series of algorithms and is just another tool to solve core AI problems. So where now, when do we want to switch from machine learning to a deep learning approach? It means that when our data set is limited, we have few number of things and we want a machine to execute in a few certain circumstances only, we can use machine learning. When our data set is very large and we want to train that particular that algorithm on the large data set, and when we test that particular algorithm, we will go for a deep learning approach, right? We have very large number of data set coming up. So now we see the NLP, machine learning, deep learning. Where is the particular relationship? So machine learning and NLP have some overlap, right? They are having some overlap, as machine learning is a tool is often used for NLP tasks. Once you create one task in NLP, then to execute that NLP task, you need to have algorithms, machine learning algorithms, or sometimes you may also use deep learning algorithms. There are several other things that you need for NLP. One is called NER, Name Entity Recognizer, something called POS tagger. The part of a speech tagger identifies nouns, verbs, and other part of a speech in a text. I hope everybody knows what is part of a speech, right? Your complete sentence in English generally have some 5 or 6 or 7 part of speeches, and include nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. So if you cannot understand where is the noun, where is the verb, where is the subject, where is the predicate in that particular sentence, you cannot understand that sentence itself. So this NLP helps you to understand the structure of a sentence. Once you understand the structure of a sentence, you can create syntax trees and you can do many more works on that particular sentence itself. So now this was the technical background of NLP. Now we will move towards how we are going to implement an NLP task, right? So NLP tasks generally, the fundamental building blocks of NLP is, first thing is tokenizer, right? If you have studied compiler, you can have lexical analyzer or lexiker or scanner. These are the terms that are used for the word called tokenizer. So tokenizer is a general term. When we go and implement it to a system level or a application level, we can have different type of synonyms like scanner, lexical analyzer. We can do that. And vocabulary, the second fundamental building block, is called lexicon, right? It's similar to lexicon. The third building block is parser, which is simpler, is like compiler. When you compile and you parse complete text document and you find if there's syntactical errors or semantic errors, you can find it out. And finally, what we want, the term token, term, word, n-gram. So these are the synonym for token, symbol, terminating symbol, something like that. So if we want to get familiar with this, those who are having a understanding of C language, so you can see that in C language, when you use a semicolon, it is called the ending delimiter. It tells you that the sentence in the C language is finished, right? If you don't put that semicolon, the system will prompt an error, right? It will parse, it will compile your code, and it will give you a particular error at the end of the compilation process. So this is the token in C. If we want to like match a Python code or any general term for that particular error, so you say that the semicolon was a token and the compiler was looking for a token. It was not able to find a token, so it gave us that particular error. So you can do this, the same thing, terminology remains the same, but the work differs. I hope this was clear till now. Whatever has been shown on the slides are clear to all the participants. In case you are having a problem, you can also ask in between, not an issue with that. So if we want to see a complete NLP task in one go, right? In one go, if we want to see all the complete tasks, it is one diagram. It's so that you start with characters, like you say, if we say good morning, Rosa, this is a one sentence, right? Then I will take out the tokens from that particular sentence. There are 3 tokens, good, morning, and Rosa. There are 3 different tokens out of that particular sentence. Now, what is good means, what is morning means, what is this Rosa means, I want to think about what are the part of speech which is used in these 3 type of words. So I will do the POS tagger and I will tag these tokens, right? That good is a adjective, morning is a singular noun, and Rosa is a singular proper noun, right? And period is a period, not an issue with that. So now I know that this the sentence has a singular noun, a singular proper noun, and a adjective. So I can create a tree also. Morning is a singular noun, right? Which is a root node. And I can create a relationship also. Good morning. Morning is part of day. Rosa is a name of a person and she is a female, and this is English language code, right? So I can create many syntax trees like this from a single sentence. So once we go down the line from regular expression till the logical compiler, you are creating more and more syntax trees, a knowledge base for your system. Okay. The modules that we are going to cover in this 1.5 hours of time are like tokenization, text vectorization, bag of words, and POS tagging. So we start with tokenization. That first thing that we saw here, that how to create tokens from a particular word, sentence, right? So in this module, we will try to learn and implement the concept of tokenization. We will use two things and we will describe the difference between these two things. Simply using simple function, that is split function, and using NLTK toolkit, right? After completion of this module, a student will be able to well verse the concept of tokenization and understand how to implement this concept using Python libraries or code. So in NLP, tokenization is a particular kind of document segmentation. That means I want to break this particular document into some chunks, right? It breaks up the text into smaller chunks and segments, which are more focused information content. Now I can focus more on the content because I have broken down that particular segment, that document, into smaller chunks. Segmentation can include breaking a particular document into paragraphs into sentences, and sentences into phrases or words or punctuations, right? All these are called tokens. Segmenting text into tokens is called tokenization. So the simple definition is, when we break down a complete document, or what we say in machine learning or in NLP, take corpora, we will describe corpus for a complete document. So we will break down the complete document or corpus into small documents. Then we say we have tokenized it. The tokens cannot be further broken down into a further piece, a unit, right? So we are having a tokenization process. Let us try to create tokens using some running content sentence. So I have used Python. So this is a syntax of Python. Those who are familiar with Python, you can understand it, or those who are work with another language can also understand this particular thing. So input a sentence. So we say that sentence like John is a good boy, he is 8 years old, right? So it is one complete sentence. So I want to create tokens out of that particular sentence. So hash, it is used to display a command line. In the above screenshot, we can see a variable called sentence that holds a string. John is a good boy, he is 8 years old. Now the tokenized task will try to fetch different tokens from this sentence. So first we will use the split function to create splitting that particular sentence into small tokens, and we will see there is a problem with this, and then we'll switch to NLTK. Create token using split function for a sentence. So I will create another function, it's a variable which is called token underscore sequence, a variable, and I will use str.split, string split, and I will pass that variable sentence into as a parameter for the split, right? Once I pass this as a sentence, the split function will split into some tokens. Now I want to print it. It is same as printf statement of C. So you can very much correlate. Print list of token is a text that is written here. List of tokens has is a variable like content that is has to be written, and we have to pass like index. Prashant, is there any problem? I guess somebody has raised a hand, right? Rohit Kushwaha. So like print statement will take care of listing the tokens, and this is the parameter format. Token sequence is a like a variable. I am passing this variable, and this 0 is as an index that it will print the first part of this particular sequence. So the list of tokens are like this. John is one token, is another token, a another token, good boy, he is 8 years old. So all these are tokens. So I have extracted that particular tokens from the sentence called John is a good boy, he is 8 years old, right? Now you can do the same thing with the help of a Python terminal also. You can write the sentence, you can use the same command and you will get the same output also, right? You can do that with the help of a Python command terminal also. But using an IDE is much more better because you can see your files, your outputs, your programs in one particular workbench. Now, is there any problem with these tokens, right? We want to see whether this token is correct or not. If we analyze this output, we will see that John is a good boy. He is 8 years. All these tokens are fine except the last one. The last one has two tokens itself. In one token, I am using two parts. One is the punctuation mark. This is called the period symbol. And one is the token itself, the text old, right? So ideally what happens is if you want to differentiate when the sentence ends and where the sentence starts, the period symbol or punctuation marks plays very important role, right? If we cannot differentiate a punctuation mark from a textual token, then we will not be able to differentiate the different sentences coming up, right? So what we do is we will have to find some way in which we can like separate this punctuation mark, this is the period symbol, from the text called old, right? So we will use something called NLTK. The NLTK toolkit is a toolkit that's been developed from very long years. It has been worked, and it has something called NLTK tokenize, right? There's a package called NLTK tokenize. What I'm doing is we will import this tokenized word tokenized package of this NLTK tokenized system, right? So tokenizers divide string into list of substrings, and we call this tokens. Now this is the when we import word tokenized from NLTK tokenize, we will use this particular word tokenized type of keyword, right? This is a function that has been developed into by NLTK itself, right? So this word tokenize will do the same thing as str.split was doing, but it is more handy and more efficient than the split function itself. We will create the same syntax here, printf, print tokenize list, and we'll file the token list now, right? But the output now what you will see here, the output is much refined. Now I can see that this old token is a different token than a period token, right? Now I can see these two are different. So I have successfully resolved the issue which was then a split function. What it is this word tokenize, take this sentence as a parameter. It will take down all the tokens like John is a good boy, he is 8 years old, and that punctuation mark is also a separate token now. So if I have multiple sentences running in one paragraph, so I just have to look out for a punctuation mark, and as soon as I find a punctuation mark or a period symbol, I can make sure that this sentence, the first sentence, is ended. Okay, we will see in upcoming slides here that how to create multiple sentences and how to find multiple sentences by vector forms also. So we have seen this. Now the sentence tokenizer is another thing. So if you want to split sentences now, right? You have a complete paragraph which have 2 or 3 sentences. Now you want to have different sentence coming out, not just tokens. I want to take out complete sentence. So what I will do is I will create a variable called sentence. I will create all the sentences into that particular variable called sentence. and then I will sentence down the split, and based on this period symbol, I am going to differentiate this particular complete paragraph, right? So it will be seeing for this, looking for this period symbol in this particular paragraph, and as soon as finds this period symbol, it will take this particular John is a good boy as one token. Another is he is a good at studies, another token. He has two sisters in another token, right? So it will segment this particular paragraph based on this period symbol. So if we see this output, the output is John is a good boy. He is good at studies. He has two sisters. Now, but after this period, also there he expects that okay, there may be another sentence. So it prints a blank sentence here. So using a split function is creating problem, which we have seen from a token or a word token or a sentence tokenizer. Another way of using it when we use something called send tokenize package of NLTK tokenize. So likewise, we have used word tokenize, we use send tokenize and pass that particular complete sentence into this as a parameter. And we print that and we see that the output will be exactly what we want. John is a good boy, a period sign with this. This is a complete one sentence now, right? He is good at studies. This is a second sentence now. And he has two sisters. This is a third sentence now. So we, with the help of this tokenized NLTK package, NLTK toolkit, we have successfully done our task of tokenizing at the word level as well as a system like sentence level. So we have differentiated the complete word sentence. If we give one sentence, we have multiple words. We have tokenized it at the word level. If I have paragraph, then we have tokenized into a sentence level, right? After you are done with this, after you are done with this particular type of sentence tokenization or word tokenization, the next thing is that there are two more concepts with after tokenization, which is called stemming and another is called lemmatization. So what we want to do is we want to normalize this particular type of words, because they are something like pluralization. I would say there are houses and there are house. House itself is enough for me to understand that the sentence is talking about house. I don't want other two alphabets coming up to make this more clear. My system can understand that the paragraph is talking about house. So how to drop this particular two characters from this particular sentence, retaining the some meaning out of that particular sentence. So it is a normalization technique to eliminate the particular words, meaning differences of pluralization or progressive ending of words, or even various web forms. This normalization identifying a common stem among various forms of word is called stemming. I want to have multiple words and I want to find the common word from this particular 3 words or 4 words or 5 words. This is called stemming. The two most important stemming algorithms is Potter stammer and snowball stammers. So we are not going to detail of these two algorithms right now. But the rules of stemming, it says that if a word ends with more than one S, the stem is the word and the suffix is a blank string. If a word ends with a single S, the stem is the word itself without the S and the suffix is S. So if I say, if I have something called cats, right? So cats is divided into 2 parts. One is called cat and one is called S. So the stem will be read as cat only, right? It will not read as cats. If a word does not end with S, the stem word is words have no suffixes. So if we say, there's an example called doctors, doctor, houses, calls, right? So the stemming, after stemming, what we get is doctor, house, call, right? And I can, if my system reads these 3 words, you can say, okay, it will talking about a doctor, which is calling to a house. The meaning can be derived from this particular stemming rules. The other thing is lemmatization. It is a task of determining that the 2 words have the same root, right? These 2 words should be from the same parent, right? So dinner and dinners both have the same root lemma called dinner, right? So lemmatization is achieved using a morphological parsing of a word. So it is more technical than stemming. Stemming was just removing the suffixes from that particular word. But lemmatization is understanding the morphological parsing of a word. So morphology is a study of words, where words are built up from small units called morphemes. There are two classes of morphemes. One is called stem and one is called affixes. So the central morpheme of the word which supply the main meaning, right? This is called stem, which we saw in last slide. And affixes are the part that provide additional meaning of various kinds to the word. That means plural things or many things. So I can affix something with the stem and I can change the meaning, right? The word horse consists of one morpheme, only horse, right? But the word cats contain two morphemes. One is called the stem, which is cat, and one is the s, which makes it plural, like many cats. So these things can be done only when we are done with tokenization. So first thing is we will create tokens and then we can study more between stemming and lemmatization. We can do that. So this thing ends your first part of this particular system. It says about tokenization. You can practice this with help of Python, and you can take any sentence of your choice. This is a sample sentence given here. You can take any sentence of your choice and you can create word level tokens and a sentence level tokens, and you can see how well you can understand the system, right? Now the second topic is vectors. So can I represent a text using vector forms? Because machine loves to work on vectors, right? 0 and 1 vectors. So it can understand, it can do cosine between these two vectors, and we can find similarity or difference between these two sentences or words using text vectorization. So text vectorization is a technique to represent text in form of vectors. Vectors are represented generally in form of 0 and 1s, right? We create a vector and vector generally in form of 0 and 1s. We will study one such representation called one-hot vector in these slides. So we will be focusing on one of the type of vector representation, which is called one-hot vectors. And why we create one-hot vectors, and this one-hot vectors, are they useful or are they not useful, or do have some drawbacks of one-hot vector, we will see in this slide. So in one-hot vectors, each row is a vector for a single word. So we are having a row and column matrix type of thing. I hope everybody knows what is matrix. So you are having a matrix and each row corresponds to a single word, right? So it's very clear that we are done with word-based tokenizing, and then we are going to work with one-hot vectors, right? We cannot go with a sentence level tokenizer and then we go with one-hot vectors. We cannot do that. For that, we will do something else. We represent sentence using row column matrix. Row represent a word, a sentence in a document, right? In case we enhance that the same concept to a sentence level. Column represents unique or distinct word in a vocabulary. So your column will be a certain distinct words, right? Not there should be no repetition of vocabulary cannot repeat, right? Your document words can repeat, but your vocabulary should have to be unique. Vocabulary of a document is a set of unique words in the entire document. So if I consider a sentence like John is a good boy, the tokens are John is a good boy and a period symbol. So in this, all the words are unique. So your rows and your columns both will have the same number of words, same number of items, right? So if I create one-hot vector system, so it will be something like this: John is a good boy. So what the structure that forms this John is a good boy, we will create special symbols before the first time. We will put special symbols, then we will create all the capital sentence words, and then we will create all the small caps, right? Sentence words, right? So, and on the columns row side, I have John is a good boy in the same way as we have in words. Now, how will we populate this one-hot vector representation is, We will take the first word, read the word John and match it with vocabulary item, right? We will read the word John and we will match it with the vocabulary. Like first is period symbol. So if it doesn't match, we will put a 0, right? If it matches, then we put a 1. And again, it doesn't match, we put a 0 and a 0 and a 0 and a 0, right? So in this way, this word John is coded as 010000, right? And we will populate the complete structure now. Now, if I want to find is 000001. Okay, so each word of your sentence now is a vector form. Right? It is in a vector form. So you can create lots of vectors using the one hot vector representation. Right? Now this word John has a vector form. Each row of a table is a binary row vector. You can see why it's called one hot vector, because all but one of the position columns in a row are 0 or blank. Only one column or a position in the vector is hot, that is 1. A 1 means on or hot, a 0 means off or absent. Okay, so we can create much more words. The positive and negative points upon one hot vector is, the positive points is no cost, no information is lost. If I want to recreate the sentence, so I can create the sentence again from that matrix representation. You can reconstruct the original document from this table of one-hot vectors. You can thus use it in neural nets, sequence to sequence models, right? But the positive negative points with one-hot vectors is, it gives a very big table for a short sentence. If you see here, it has a sentence of say 5 words. We are having such a big table. So you can think of, if we have a sentence of maybe a paragraph or multiple sentences coming up, the structure of a table is very, very big. You have expanded the file. You have expanded the file size that would be required to store more your document. For long document, this representation is not practical. I cannot go with one hot vector representation if I have a long documents or long sentences coming up. For that, I need to do something else. You study this year, right? Python code for one hot vectors. So for that, because it involves matrices or a mathematical touch, I cannot go simply by NLTK. What I will do, I will create one more package. I will use one more package which is called NumPy for displaying the vector or matrix. I will capture the sentence. I will tokenize the sentence, create a vocabulary, and create one hot vector matrix. Right? These are the steps that will be followed when we want to create a vector format. Right? Now import NumPy as a variable called NP, and then we will use a word tokenizer, and we will say and capture the sentence in a variable. Okay, we will capture the sentence in a variable as we did earlier. We will tokenize that particular sentence as we did earlier and keep this list into a token sequence type of array. And we will see that, okay, these all are 11 tokens, they're part of the complete sentence. So till this point, it is same as the previous tokenization type of thing. Now, list of unique words can be we will call it vocabulary, because when you when we go and search in a dictionary, you have to have a vocabulary of a particular sentence. The vocabulary, the system cannot be repeating words. So I need to have a sorted set for this particular tokens. So these tokens might have repeating words. So I don't want repeating words to come up. I want only the distinct words to come up. So I will put first set this token, right? Build an unordered collection of unique elements. So this unordered collection of unique terms, I will form the tokens. Then because it is unordered, I want to order it. So return a new list containing all items in ascending order. So ascending order means first the special characters, then the capital letters, and then all the small letters in ascending orders. So this vocabulary has a special character and number before alphabet, capitalized alphabet before lowercase alphabet. So see, this is the rule that is being applied in this particular set of structure. Now, what we do is, it might be possible that your system doesn't have the same number of vocabulary items as your token size. Your tokens might be having different repeating words. So the size of the token might be different and size of vocabulary might be different, right? So num token is one of the variable in which I will keep that length of the token size, and vocab size is one of the variable in which I will keep the length of the vocabulary size. In this case, might be same or might be different, right? To create a matrix store, the limit of tokens and vocabulary in a separate variables. Now I want to create a matrix now. So for creating a matrix, we will follow the same thing as we do in C. We will create a loop, right? So this is a print statement, simple one hot vector representation. One hot vectors is a like array. It says np, numpy is that package, and np was the instead of that package. Zeros, num tokens, and vocabulary size. This we were calculated in last turn, right? Last slide we have seen these two variables. Now what we are doing is with this line we are declaring a matrix of row and column and initializing it with zeros. So initially we are having a row and column type of matrix which everything as 0, right? Then we will enumerate this token. This we apply a for loop. I is the looping variable and word is an instance of that particular complete word. This token size sequence has lots of words. So I will take each word and I will iterate that particular loop. So one hot vector, this array, what it do is it will put this one in all the places where this vocab index matches that particular I, right? This word, the word which matches with that vocab word, it will put an 1, and all other places it will put at 0. So, and after this, we will print that particular one hot vector matrix. Okay. So we will get something like this. One hot representation of that particular sentence. John is a good boy and he is something like, he is 8 years old. So we will get a representation like this. So this vector represents John, and this vector, the last vector, represents the period symbol. But this representation has some problem. The problem is we cannot identify from this representation that which side is token words and which side is vocabulary. Okay, I cannot make sure the columns and the rows, right? I have stated it, but to remove it, make it more clear, we will use another type of library which is called pandas. In order to resolve this problem, we will make use of another package which is called pandas. The pandas wraps a 1D array with some helper functionality in an object called series. Pandas is particularly handy with tables of numbers like list of lists, 2D numpy arrays, 2D numpy matrices, arrays of arrays, dictionaries of dictionaries, and so on. So a data frame keeps track of labels of each column, allowing you to label each column in your table, in our table, with the token of words represents. So now what is happening is I will put some labels in this particular one hot vectors using that package called pandas, right? So I will import pandas as PD as I import numpy as NP, and then I will create these two lines. This is called the data frame. DF is equal to the instance of that pandas, and data frame I will pass this complete array that I created here, this complete array, one hot vectors array, into this pandas, and I will label the columns as vocab. So all the vocabulary items are part of the column now. So vocabularies were this. So I have vocabulary. So all this vocabulary will be a part of that particular one hot vectors now, right? So this is the output. It says my columns are dot 8 John A boy good is old years, right? So if I want to create now a sentence, then I can create, because I have the John, the first row is, the second row is a, third row is good, fourth row is boy, right? So John is a good boy. If I traverse this particular table, so I can create the sentence again, right? And it is very meaningful. It has labels on both the sides, so you can understand the vocabulary and the number of tokens. There are 10 tokens and the vocabulary itself. Hope this is clear till this point. So after this, but this matrix has lots of zeros and less number of ones. So we called it as densely populated matrix, right? Dense matrix. So if it is possible to remove this ones, zeros from this particular structure, we can do that as well. So it will be like less populated. It will be sparse matrix. So we can do it with like another type of functionality. We say data frame where all are zeros, put it a space bar, right? So we will create another matrix. It is much more readable now. So I can create a matrix like this, right? For this particular sentence from which I can read it also, and I can recreate the sentence as well. Okay. So this is how you create one hot vector representation of a sentence given to you. What we do is we will capture the sentence. When we tokenize the sentence, we will create one hot vectors, and then we'll display the one hot vector in form matrix form. And we can again we can create the sentence, recreate the sentence again, right? So you can do with this sentence also like you did for tokenization. You can create one hot vector for Maria is a sweet girl. She is 8 years old. You can do that, and you can use pandas, and you can also see if you don't use pandas, and if you have sparse or dense matrix, what is the type of readability you get from that multiple matrix, right? The third type of module that we are going to study is bag of words, right? The bag of word model of BOW for short is a way of extracting features from text for use in modeling, such as machine learning algorithms. Till now, we were in NLP based systems. Now, what we want is my machine should learn from this particular word, set of words, right? So a bag of words is a representation of text that describes the occurrence of words within a document, right? So what I am in a bag of words system, what I am more concerned is the frequency of words, right? Frequency of words. Where they are occurring, I do not bother, but the frequency, how much words are occurring and what is the frequency of each word. So it involves two things. One is the vocabulary of a known word, and second is a measure of the presence of known words. Measure means frequency of the presence of the known words. It is called as a bag of words because any information that the order of or structure of words in a document is discarded, right? I'm not bothered about the order or the structure of the words. What I am concerned is about whether the word occur in a document or not, whether they're in the document, right? Only this thing I'm concerned. The intuition is that the documents are similar if they have similar content, right? Like if I want to go and check plagiarism of two files, right? Programs. So what I can do is I can check this bag of words for the two programs, right? If the programs are having similar number of words coming up, right? So these two are copied document, right? Somewhat similar percentage wise. If they are having dissimilar words, right? So I cannot say they are copied. Might be possible the person copied it from that internet and changed the complete document and put it his own words. So he had put some effort. Further, that from the content alone, we cannot learn something about the meaning of the document, right? So below is a snippet from the few lines from a textbook called A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, taken from the project Gutenberg, right? This is a very well-known project, right? It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. This is the 4 lines written by Charles Dickens in A Tale of Two Cities. For this small example, let's treat each line as a separate document, right? And 4 lines of our entire corpus of document, right? My corpus is of 4 lines. I have 4 documents. One document is it was the best of times. The other document is it was the worst of times. The third document is it was the age of wisdom. And the 4th document is it was the age of foolishness. So for that, I want to create my bag of words. The total number of words that I can count is 24, right? Now we can make a list of words in our model vocabulary. The unique words here, ignoring the case and punctuation, are it, the, of, worst, wisdom, was, best, time, age, foolishness, right? These are the unique words, right? So this is a vocabulary of 10 words from a corpus containing 24 words. So in this example, this corpus contains many words more than the vocabulary itself, because the things are repeating, right? And vocabulary cannot repeat. So my vocabulary just have 10 words and my corpus has 24 words, right? So the next step is to score the words of each document. The objective is to turn each document of free text into a vector that can use as input and or output for a machine language learning model. The simplest scoring method is to mark the presence of words as a Boolean 0 for absent and 1 for present. Using the arbitrary ordering of words listed above in a vocabulary, we can step through the first document. It was best of times and convert into a binary vector. So scoring it something like this. We have 10 vocabulary items and we have one document with us. So we will put one, as we say it has it, we put a one in it. It has was, we put a one as was. It has the, we put one in the, best of times. All these three has 111 and rest of the vocabulary as 0, because this document doesn't have worst, age, wisdom, foolishness. So I don't have these things. So I have put a 1 in the places where I can find it vocabulary in the sentence, and I put 0 in places where I cannot find that vocabulary in the sentence, right? So these are the documents what we are talking about, and this is the vocabulary, 10 vocabulary items. So if we put it, it will like this. So if we put it a vector spaces, it will be like this, that it was the best of times. If we want to represent in a vector form, it will be 6 ones and 4 zeros, right? Now you can create the fill the remaining vectors. You can take any sentence of your choice and you can fill, but for the time's sake, I will fill this for you. So it will be something like this. I can find this vocabulary and I can fill each sentence. The second sentence, it was the worst of time. So it is 1, was is 1, the is 1, off is 1, time is 1, worst is 1, right? So I can create all this particular sentence like this. So again, you are creating a sentence now. Earlier case in one-hot vectors, what we have words on the rows, right? And we have vocabulary on the columns. Now we have sentences in the rows and we have vocabulary on the columns, right? So in this type of representation of bag of words, it is very clear that you need to fetch the sentence tokenization, right? Of the tokenization part. And then we will again do a word tokenize, because we cannot create a sentence to word. We have to do a sentence to word tokenization and fill that vocabulary again, right? Things to ponder is, in one-hot vector format, we have seen a matrix representation of a row and a column, where row represent token words in a sentence and column represent vocabulary. However, in a BOW, the row is not representing a single token or a word, it is representing a complete sentence. So we will see how this multiple documents works using Python, right? Step 1 is we want to create labels, so we will have pandas and we will use sent and word tokenize both, because we will do sentence tokenization first and then we will do a word tokenization afterwards, right? So the second step is to capture the paragraph, multiple sentences. So I have 4 sentences now. I am a good boy. He's also a good boy. She is a cute girl, and they are all nice kids, right? These 4 sentences might have some words similar and some word different, right? So separate the sentences, multiple sentences using analytic tokenize. So I will take this sentence in the parameter, like as a parameter, and send tokenize. So the output will be, I am a good boy. He is also a good boy. She is a cute girl, and they are all nice kids. So these are the 4 sentences stored in this array of all sentences. The all sentences is an array which has these 4 type of sentences. Now declare an empty corpus, because my corpus right now, I have to, this corpus is a bag of words. So the corpus is empty right now. I have declared one corpus which is empty corpus for bag of words. code for creating the corpus and bag of words. Now what I need to create, I need to populate this corpus with sent stand for sentence. So I will create a matrix like this, right? Where this it was the best of times will be replaced by sentence zero. This it was the worst time will be replaced by sent one, sent two, and sent four, right? So what will happen is sent zero means that the sentence zero and the relation words will be populated here. Okay. So what I will do is I will use a loop variable I, a sent variable for sentence capturing, and all sentences. It will have 4 sentences. So I will take one by one all the sentences, go down and word tokenize each sentence, right? And put it into another array called word in sent. So all the words in the sentence will be captured by word in sent. Then what I will do is I will create a dictionary. Dictionary is same as your vocabulary, and I will put dictionary has a key value type of system, right? So I will take all the tokens in this word sent and mark 1 for each token. Okay, because what I did here was this. I took all the tokens here. It was the best of times. I marked this all tokens that were part of this sentence and put 1 here, right? And I leave all the vocabulary as 0 because they were not part of this particular corpus or this document, right? Likewise, what I will do here is I will take all the words in this sentence, and for each word I will put a value called 1. The TOK, the talk is a token, is the key, and 1 is the value, right? And I will populate this corpus, this array for that particular type of structure. So sent has 4 all sentences, right? Dictionary is the structure unique word type of thing, which we has done in our last presentation as well. Key value pair, right? I have spent key is that token itself and value is 1, right? And list of each sentence. So I am a boy. This is this one sentence. Second sentence, he is also a good boy. She is a cute girl. They all are nice kids. So this is the set of sentences that I have. So if we focus on one sentence now, I am a good boy. So how the system is being transformed in a corpus, it will take I is one of the token, it will match, it will put 1 in form of value. I1, M1, A1, good one, boy 1, and paired 1, right? So this is one key value pair, right? Likewise, I have another key value pair, another key value pair, and another key value pair. Okay, so I have 4 key value pairs. Now the corpus will be looking like this. Sent 0 will have this key value pair. Sent 0 is a sentence 0, and it has all 4 ones, right? All alphabetical ones. Sent 1, sent 2, sent 3, all are 4 sentences. Now each sentence having 1. My vocabulary has 10 words, right? So that 10 words might not be in sentence 0, might not be in sentence 1. So wherever I put 1, that means that thing is a part of the vocabulary. Whenever I put 0, that means that thing is not, the sentence word is not there in sentence 0, right? So I will now use something called data frame, and I will take this corpus, right? This thick corpus, and try to fill this corpus first. So it will be like this. I am a good boy, colon, full stop. And this is the complete structure of this particular vocabulary. These are 4 sentences. So I populate this once, right? And NA and value not available for all the rest, right? Fillna is used to fill a special value. Like for NaN, I want to populate 0. So I populate 0 for all the values where 1 was not present, right? I populate it like Fillna. Fillna, you can put any value, 0. Now, I don't want a floating point values. I want numeric values. So I removed all the floating point values and I created this table. The third table is much more clear than the first table, right? it will be much more possible, much more clear if I can rotate this table and put it, keep a transpose of this particular. So the T will be transposing that particular table back to a thing which is much more readable. So if I say cent 0 is 1, cent 0 has 1 for I am a good boy, full stop, right? So this is a complete sentence 0, and all the other vocabulary items are 0 because they are not part of my sentence 0, right? Sentence 1 again has all the things which are there part of sentence 1. A good boy, full stop, he is also, right? These are the part of sentence 1 and rest are not there, so put a 0 here. Sentence 2 is a full stop is she cute girl. Likewise, sentence 4 says full stop they are all nice kids, right? So I transform the 4 sentences, they are there in my corpus, right? They are 4 sentences in my document into a vector form, right? But the thing is, if we can measure the bag of words overlap of 2 vectors, we can get a good estimate of how similar these words they are used. Okay, I can say that these 2 sentences are similar or not. If we get a cosine of these 2, right, and we can do a dot product of these 2, we can see that the sentences are equally matching or not, or how much content they are matching, right? So what we do is we will pass sent0 df.sent0 dot df.sent1, right? So data frame we will take from sentence 0 and we will take data frame of sentence 1. When we do a dot product, it will be doing something like this. It will give a value called 4, and we can see that I am a good boy, he is also a good boy. That means we can correlate that these 2 sentences are closely matching with each other. They say that they both are good boy. They are using the same quality code good, that they are talking about the same the person like entity called boys, right? I can drive many more characteristic from that particular type of overlap, right? 4 tokens similar in sentence 0 and sentence 1. But the problem here is when we try to rebuild, like one hot vectors, when we try to create a sentence back, right, it creates the same sentence. This was the positive point of that particular one hot vectors. This thing is not similar with this bag of words. It might be possible that it give you a correct translation or it will not give you a correct translation. If we want to create sentence 0 again, so I am a good boy, perfectly, we build it perfectly, right? But if I say the sentence 1, a good boy, full stop, he is also, right? This is a not so perfect, or say a dot is she good cute girl, it's a bad translation, and the last one is nearly good translation, right? So in bag of word type of approach, it might be possible that we at the end, when we try to again create the sentences back, the 4 sentences, we are not able to create the same sentence again, right? So this is a drawback of bag of words. Bag of words is very useful to represent sentence in binary form. It can also be used to compute the similarity between sentences. However, when a sequence sentence tokens are vectorized into bag of words, it loses a lot of meaning inherent in the order of those words. Because why it happens? Because we are concerned more on the frequency of words, right, than the order of words. That's why it loses the content, the meaning, right? In the next module, we will see how we can retain much more inherent words like sentences. Now, the thing is, finally, what we are concerned here is part of a speech tagger, right? The process of classifying words into part of a speech and labeling them according to part of a speech, or POS tagging, or simply tagging, right? Tagging is an activity which we do most often, right? When we click a photo on your mobile phone and the photo goes in your photos, Google Photos, it is tagged with your name or a date or a timestamp, right? If you want to search that particular document or a photograph, you can search by name, you can search by dates, you can by timestamp, right? So tagging is a very, very common phenomena that we used to have in this our day-to-day life. But how do we tag the part of speech in a sentence? The question is this, that I want to find out where is a noun, where is an adjective, where is an adverb, and how these are related, right? Whether a single word used in a sentence can be a noun and an adjective or an adverb at the same time. It is possible or not. If you want to know this, then this PO stacker will very well help you. Part of speech are also known as word class or lexical categories, right? The collection of tags used for a particular task is known as tag set. We will use certain tags and we will create tag set. We have studied that in the past, like in dictionary part, that the dictionary has token the key value pair, right? In this case also, PO stagger, you will use the same concept of key value pair, where the key will be the token that you are going to study, and the value will not be one in this case now. It will be the tag that you give that particular word, whether this word is a noun, this word is an adverb, this word is a any other part of speech. So this tag set will be that the tag will be the key, and the tag will be the value, and the token will be the key, right? A part of a speech tagger or a PO stagger processes a sequence of words and attaches a part of a speech tag to each word. Okay, don't forget to input NLTK, right? So do not try to like create something, because once you create NLTK, you don't have NLTK, then the thing is you cannot create tagger. You cannot tag things, right? So as of now, what we have done is I have one sentence, add now and now for something completely different. This is one sentence, right? And we word tokenize it. So if we word tokenize it, it will give you and now for something completely different. Okay, there are 6 words in these tokens in this particular sentence. So text array will contain 6 tokens. Now what we do is we simply put a PO tag functionality from the NLTK and pass this text, that array of tokens into this, so that we can again get a new array which is called PO tag set, and it will have the tags also with it, and we will print this particular tags, right? So now what we see is and now for something completely different. All these words, 6 words, are tagged with something. A tag is given, a value is given, and is tagged with CC, now is RB, for is IN, something is NN, completely is RB, and different is JJ, right? So there are lots of tags in defined in NLTK. Like NN is for noun, right? RB is for verb, right? And JJ is for something else, and IS is with C is conjunction, right? So I can have, because I know that and is a conjunction between these 2 sentences. So I put a conjunction is a part of a particular sentence, maybe, right? I'm reading that part. So we have tagged each token with a tag. So it has a tag set. I hope it is clear. So a word and a tag. Now let's look at another example, and with this we will be finishing off with this particular webinar. And I'm like finishing off before 15 minutes approximately, but it's too much content for the students to hold at one sitting, right? So let's look at another example, this time including some homonyms, like same words, right? They refuse to permit us to obtain the refuse permit. This is one sentence. Now I can see that if I do a PO tagging of this particular sentence, I can see refuse and permit, these 2 words appearing in the initial section of the sentence and the later section of the sentence. But if you go and see the tag says refuse has a tag of VBB, that is present tense verb, and permit also has a tag of verb, right? And refuse at the later part is tagged with a noun, and permit is also tagged with the content, the tag of a noun, right? So the thing is, we generally what we are native, we are not native, our language is not native English, right? We do not speak English for our mother tongue. So we do not know difference between refuse and refuse, right? That is the accent in which we should speak. So refuse is a verb meaning deny, and refuse is a noun meaning trash, right? Right. So these two are. जी प्रशांत. ठीक 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 बस मेरी लास्ट स्लाइड है. ठीक. हाँ हाँ. So, so these two words might be written in the same way, refuse and refuse. But when we talk in a natural language, these two words are much more different. One meaning deny, and other meaning trash. For this reason, the text-to-speech in the systems usually perform a PO tagging. Whenever we go for text-to-speech type of conversion, we generally have something called PO tagging. So I hope this particular session is of some interest to some students, might be. So I have ended this particular session. So if there any query, we can go ahead with the queries also.
Oh, great, sir. So I would like the participants to put up their queries. They may post their queries in the chat box.
So there is one question from Pritesh Kulshrestha. It says that the difference between stemming and limmatization. I have already answered this, right? And stemming is a particular process in which you remove affixes arbitrarily without looking into that, because I want to have the stem part of that word, which can be a root. So stemming is sometimes give you an abstract result. But lemmatization is a logical process. It will find out the morphemes out of that particular word and logically remove that particular thing. It will drive that whether it is a root word or not. So lemmatization is a much more technical term for stemming. Stemming is a less more technical term. Okay, this is the one question that I have received in a question answers section. And sir, why aren't we using word embedding? The word embedding is possible. We can use this word embedding techniques also, but right now we are not using it. We are not displaying it. We can have, I can reply to your query in a while or so, right? Using email, the email address written in my end of the slide. Okay. In that you can create, you can ask me about detail about word embeddings. Right. Done. And can we have this PPT? Yes, you can have this PPT. I think the thing has been recorded by your faculty member. Can give you this thing.
Yeah, the PPTs, the content will be shared to all the participants. So any more queries?
I have some chat session coming up right now. So this is chat is for your. Can you read the question, because there are lots of chat coming up. One thing is, can we find the distance between two vectors? Yes, I have told you the distance between two vectors. We can find it using cosine function, right? You can use the cosine and the function between these two, and you can create like distance between these two functions. And if you can go and read the one of the two books that was mentioned in the starting of this session, it has a detailed explanation of how to create the distance between these two functions, how to find a TD-IDF between these two functions, right? Any two systems. And no queries.
Right, sir. So we have, that's all. We all at JIT group of institutions, thank you, sir, for your expertise on this natural language processing. And we hope to see you soon. Like we would like to put up a series of such webinars.
Sure, sir. Okay. So it is my privilege to give a lecture to all students of JIT, because I feel like a part, whatever I'm today is because of Navneet sir and all the GF staff, because they have provided me that opportunity to work there, right? Because that I have gained that much, some knowledge according to my domain. So
It's
thanks
your
once again for
sir,
inviting.
true generosity. So thank you so much, sir. And I thank all the dignitaries at JIT Group of Institution for hosting such a seminar. And thank you to all the participants. So we end up here and we start with a new beginning that we'll have definitely a series of webinars.
Okay. Thank you.
Certificates will be issued to all the participants within 2 to 3 working days. Thank you so much.
Thank you.